It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. I am Brad. That is John. Today's date is the 17th of September, 2025. This is the Charlie Block, and since we've gotten our new GPS clock, we start this segment at about 7:40. John, what time is it right now?
7:47. It's military precision, Brad.
Man, we're just only about 8 minutes off. Okay. Do you have anything specific to talk about C-Block? Because I got a couple things.
Yeah, just as a reminder, Brad, programming note, tomorrow morning and Friday morning for A-Block, I will be in the car. It might be a good opportunity to talk to Jim Roberts one of those days, right?
You know, I've got an issue with that where I've tried to make that hook up with him, and the problem is he has a conflict where apparently he has kids that he gets to school, and this is not, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. So
yeah, that would almost be like me getting kids to school from 7 to 7:15 tomorrow morning and me finding a way to make a phone interview work, right, Brent?
Well, you know, what's sort of interesting about this, John, what I find fascinating about this is that there are lots of people that I try to do interviews with, and a lot of them will say, well, I can't. I got to go to the gym or something like that. I go, hey, you know, we don't have to have you come into the studio. There's no makeup person that's going to sit down and spend a half an hour with you putting on, you know, your foundation and stuff like that so you look good in our cameras. Because this is radio. You can do it on your phone. And people, I don't know.
Yeah, and the quality of people that you ask, Brad, they all talk like this. You know, Brad, what's really hard for the next, I don't know, how many days do you think I should pull punches with you? You know, because of your medical state. You think, like, back on Monday I can go back to making fun of you?
You always do. You've never stopped. So what else is new, you know? I mean, and you know what? I don't care. I told you my story before about, you know, here we go. He's going to go, oh, dead horse.
No, wait a minute. Hey, did anybody start a company called Country Club Car Wash? Did you ever go to their funeral, and what did their widow say?
You really want me to tell you the story?
Beat 'em tots. That stands for discuss us many times on the show. Beat the dead horse. Yes, Brad. To go back to your story, I just wanted to mention that I'll be in the car tomorrow, and you had a number of stories that you want to talk about. Let's let Mr. Bluestone rest in peace and go to what you wanted to talk about in C-Block.
You brought it up. I'll finish it. Randy Bluestone turned out to be a client of mine, turned out to be a good friend of mine, died way too early, owns the Country Club Car Washes. He's a Jewish guy, and so the Jewish people have a different way they do things. They bury people within 24 hours and then have, like, what? I don't know if they call it a celebration of life. It's some kind of thing like that. And I went to it out at the temple, which is actually right next to where I was yesterday for my blood test, right there off of 141 and Conway out there right off of Highway 40. And before the funeral, everybody went up and talked to Barb Bluestone, his wife. I walked up to Barb, and I shook her hand, and she says, I can still remember the exact words. She says, you meant so much to Randy. He'd love to give you S blank blank T.
That's right, Brad.
That's what she said to me. And that's exactly the relationship I had with Randy, which if you knew Randy, that was the ultimate compliment. If he gave you sharp elbows, and I'm not talking about sharp elbows, I'm talking about razor blade elbows. That was what was like being with him. That was the kind of guy he was. And the more he liked you, the more crap he gave you. So, anyway.
And he made it, once he made it up to heaven, Brad, some guy with a thick accent came up to him and said, I don't know who discovered the ocean, but it sure wasn't the fish.
Well, he said the effing fish, but that was a whole
The effing fish. Okay, Brad, get to your C-Block stories.
Okay. I'm sort of fascinated and also maybe a little bit suspicious of all the people who are now coming out and saying, oh, Charlie Kirk was my good friend. Do you know what I'm saying, John? I mean.
Yeah, I do know. And let me interrupt real quick. I think it was the great Camellia Peterson. Before someone else passed, gosh, in the last 2 months, maybe it was Kit Bond. I don't recall. But it was I think it was either Camellia Smith or the great Kathy Jo Loy from down in Carthage, who said, someday I hope to have as many friends, as many really good friends, as someone who has just passed away. In other words, when someone passes, it's amazing how many people were really good friends with them.
I have been, and I will tell you this up front, I'm a big YouTube guy. I have watched Charlie Kirk videos for years and years and years. And the one that is getting huge amounts of views now is where he have a long conversation. If you know, he's done this for a long time, where he sets up his little tent, and a lot of times it was literally him, a little tent, and he sat there with his PA system, and he had a wireless microphone. They had a wireless microphone out in front of the crowd, and people came up. And there was a young guy who was challenging him on the fact that Charlie Kirk never graduated from college. And this guy was arguing with him on the fact that, well, you don't know anything because, hold on, I got to clear my throat here. You don't know anything because you don't have a college degree. And Charlie Kirk just buries this kid, and to the point where they start talking, Stalin and Lenin and communism and socialism and fascism, and Charlie, off the top of his head, buries this guy. Then they start talking about economics, and this kid supposedly like an econ major at whatever university he was, and Charlie starts throwing out all these economist names who I actually know most of them he talked about, and this, not bragging or anything like that, but this college kid didn't know like one of them, I mean, and then at one point in time, the best part of this video is one point in time, he calls Charlie a white supremacist, and that only white people pay attention to what he's saying, and no black people would say anything. And along comes a black dude who comes up to the microphone and starts saying, and he starts talking about the fact that white people have kept black people down. This is a white dude saying this. And this guy walks up to the microphone, a black dude, and starts talking about the fact that he's a black guy. He nothing has gotten in his way, and he starts talking about how I'm a poli-sci major, and I've worked for, and I don't know what state this was. I didn't recognize some of the names. These were like probably reps, U.S. reps. I work for Representative so-and-so in his office in D.C. I was interned in blah, 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 blah. And the crowd is just going nuts because not only was this guy flaying himself, but he was like, at this point in time, when he goes into the white supremacist thing, here comes this black guy that blows the whole thing out of the water. And see, that was the thing that I remember seeing these videos for years, and I thought to myself, God, is this guy good? God, is he step on, be able to be so nimble on his feet? And more importantly, he dropped out of junior college. And the interesting part of it is he started this when he was 18. And I've said this to many people, even my kids. I've said to them, you know what? Don't ever get into the situation where someone says, well, you're too young, you can't do that. You don't have enough experience. You haven't worked, blah, 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 blah. I mean, there are people, and I told you this all the time, I read all these business biographies. I'm fascinated by these business biographies, these people that we see are these hugely successful people, but yet you read the backstory, and they had absolutely positively crappy lives. They had terrible things happen to them, and they rose above it all. And don't ever let anybody tell you that you need a college degree. Obviously, if you want to be an attorney or a doctor or a nurse or a CPA, yeah, that's going to be the kind of deal. But I've told many people, and through the years with me teaching at Flow Valley and Lindenwood, and also having quite a few mothers through the years contact me and say, my son's interested in broadcasting. What do you say? And I always tell them, I said, if they're going to go to college, don't study broadcasting. Get a degree that will serve them the rest of their life. And I always tell them, get an accounting degree or get a law degree. I mean, how many people on Fox television, how many of those people are attorneys? A bunch of them. Do you think they ever went to school to be a broadcaster? No. Because of the fact that they have something to fall back on. They can always practice law. Worst case scenario, they can fix traffic tickets or they can chase ambulances. One of the two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. Could we talk about real quick, Brad, that we got a clarification from maybe, arguably, my favorite listener ever, who said that when we talked about the good friend, my good friend got this thing, it was in reference to Andrew Bailey going to Washington, D.C. Remember when he got that and then suddenly everybody's Andrew Bailey's best friend?
Right, same kind of deal.
Yeah, and Brad, you mentioned with the Charlie Kirk stuff and higher education, you've mentioned for a long time that I think, I might be projecting my own opinion here, but I think you agree with me. I think there was a period of time, particularly when I was in high school and college in the 1990s, where you had to get an undergraduate degree.
Right.
And then when and that's what everybody did that had a brain, essentially. And if you decided to go to trade school, or God forbid, not go to college, people definitely looked down on you. And then when I entered the workforce, Brad, suddenly having an undergraduate degree wasn't enough. And if you weren't getting a master's degree or some sort of MBA, then it was like, ew, you only have your undergraduate? And I think in the last 10 years, that sentiment has certainly changed.
Well, I talk all the time. I've got a bachelor's and a master's. And at one point in time, John, I'm not kidding when I say this, I was going to go after my PhD. That was one of my goals a long time ago.
Yeah, and you ended up getting it. It's just a different one. You got a player-hater degree where you dislike people who are successful.
No, I love people who are successful.
I'm kidding you, Brad. And, Brad, I would add the asterisk to your story real quick as we end right at military precision at 8 o'clock. Because to quote us from earlier in the thing, some of us have kids that have to get to school. But when we mentioned earlier, you mentioned that you love biographies of successful people.
Yes.
And you mentioned frequently on the show that many of them had horrible upbringings.
Yes.
We don't hear the story about people who had rough upbringings, who turned to drugs and died, or who became dregs of society and robbed people and spent time in jail. We hear the stories of people who were wildly successful and were impressed by the fact that they had the resilience to make it through. But in other words, having a tough childhood doesn't mean you're going to be successful. It just means that it can help you be successful if you learn resilience.
But conversely, having a tough childhood does not necessarily mean you're going to be a failure.
Absolutely, Brad. You're absolutely right.
And it works both ways. I mean,
and I'd love to stay in chat, Brad, but I got to clean out my interior because the governor is going to be hand washing my car tonight at Dave Sinclair. I'm going to go there between 4 and 6:30, but I don't know. Somebody said that there's some sort of a blood test or something. I don't know about that. I just heard there's a free car wash there.
No free car wash, John, but they will take will take your blood. And John, seriously, dudes and dudettes, if you have a dude in your life, tell him tonight, 4 to 6:30, Dave Sinclair Ford, Lindbergh and Lee Ferry. It's at the very end of Lindbergh, right down there as you come off of 255 in that area right there. Go down there, get your free test, and you know what? 99 or maybe 98% of the people would come back with flying colors like I did for years, but this year, not so good at flying colors, and we'll see what happens with me. John, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
We will see them. I'd love to stay in chat, but about once an hour I have to urinate, so I got to run, Brad.
I would laugh. Oh, I do laugh, but that's not as funny as it should be.
See you tomorrow, Brad.